Theresa Zupancich, Jamnick. Theresa is the oldest of 5 children born to Edward and Molly Murhar Zupancich. The family lived above the Zupancich brothers' grocery, and Theresa worked there through her school years, graduating in 1956 and attending Ely Junior College. She married Joe Jamnick and raised a family of 6 children and managed the Vermilion Community College food service for 32 years before retiring. Virgie, Strukel, Ivancich. Virgie graduated at the top of her class in 1955. Her parents, Frank and Helen Koval Strukel, owned Frank's Liquor Store on Sheridan Street. She also graduated from Ely Junior College and UMD with a business education degree. She taught in Greenway and Babbitt, and in 1968, she and her husband Paul bought and ran the Ely Dairy Queen. Virgie and Paul had 3 sons. Betty Markovich, Kunstul. Betty's parents were Joseph and Catherine Mackey Markovich. She was one of 8 children who all had to work growing up. After graduating in 1951, Betty married Stanley Kunstul, and they raised 5 children together. Betty was a cheerleader in high school and continues that tradition today as the lone cheerleader leading the Ely School song at in-town sporting events.
Now, you were all born and raised at Ely. Tell me what it was like going to school in the late 40s and 50s. Theresa, do you want to start?
Well, we went to, we only lived 3 to 4 blocks away from school. And when we started kindergarten, we only went half a day, and then first grade on. And we had an hour for lunch. So most 95% of everybody went home and had lunch, and then we had to be back at 1 o'clock. We had principals every place we went. When we were in elementary school, we had 2 lady principals, Miss Austin and Miss Ratzeloff, and they were very strict. You had to walk in the hallways, you never hollered, you respected your teachers. In fact, even into high school, Mr. Langen was a very strict principal also. But I enjoyed my school years tremendously. I did a lot. I was involved in some sports. I was in pep club. Well, I went to all the football games and basketball games, hockey games. Hockey was outside in the ice, out on the side of the school. We stood in the snowbank. The football team, we got to go to a lot of the games because one of the parents had a bus. So he would take the lots of the fans. When we were juniors, we went all the way up to International Falls. God bless us, we lost 75-0. Jumped back on the bus and came back to Ely. And when we were seniors, we still lost to them, but not so bad. But it was a fun year. My high school days were fantastic.
Theresa did a great job. I can't add much to it, except that I went to Lincoln School, which was right up in this area.
Right on here.
Right here. No, we were right here, yeah, where it is now, where we're sitting here now. And we had a principal also, Miss Stimber, same kind of person, very strict. It was just, went to the 5th grade here. Then 6th grade, we went to the
Washington.
Washington School, and then to the high school. So that's the only thing I have to add. Theresa did a great job. Okay.
Well, I did pretty much the same as these girls. Going to school here, and I only lived 2 blocks away on Sheridan Street. And family of 7 sisters and 1 brother. And we lived in a 4-room upstairs of my grandparents' house. So it was kind of crowded.
Did you work summers, Betty?
Yes, I did. when I was 9 years old, I was delivering newspapers. I had to do that for a while. And then when I was 13, I got a job as a waitress at a cafe down by where the gas station is on Sheridan Street.
Yeah.
Anyway, which wasn't far from our house. And then as I got older, I was working in a grocery store, the co-op store. That's how I got my e-sweater. Pay for it. And then I've always enjoyed sports, and we didn't have the sports like the boys did. I remember two of my sisters were good swimmers, and I always liked swimming. I was in Shagwell Lake all the time, and in fact, I even saved a couple of kids because the mothers were too busy. Well, anyway, I was a lifeguard for a couple of years. I have so much fun now that I'm older that I get such a big fan group, and they really support me a lot, and I think that's why I'm still here.
Virgie, how about you?
I worked for the shopper when I was like in 4th grade, 5th grade. They were right across the street. So I ended up delivering shoppers, and by the time I was in junior high, I was working in the shopper, helping putting it together and everything. So yeah, that was my first job. Second job, after from the sophomore year to senior year, I worked at Virgie's Cafe. Busy, I was just, oh my gosh. We had a station, I had 4 booths, and that's all I took care of. That's how busy they just would keep turning over. It was wonderful. Ely was just booming, we had guys flying in to go fishing. The planes were flying all over, and could go into the Boundary Waters. We were in the era when it was wide open. Until the 60s when they made it, preserved it, which is a great thing. Everybody thought, oh God, we're done, we're done. But it's turned out to be a good thing. You still get people here, so that's not good. And then I worked at Penny's. And by the way, I'm an only child, so I don't have, these guys have a lot of siblings, but I don't. I was all by myself.
Theresa?
Okay, I was an only girl. I had 4 brothers, and I worked in Zup's forever. When we were small, like 10, 12, 11, 12 years old, our main job was to put potatoes from a 100-pound bag into 10-pound bags. And then my brother would sit next to me, and he had to tie them with those metal strips. But then soon, my mother used to do all the book work, and then I took over her job. And I worked there until I went to the college, just doing book work. But then I got married, and I had 6 children, and so I was busy at home. But and my husband and I graduated from the same class, and Joe worked at Reserve, and then he was eventually the city top electrician. Yeah.
Okay, what was the size of your graduating class?
The size, I think we had 127.
Okay.
And Ely was so booming then because the mines were working, and we could get jobs anywhere in the summer because the town was just fantastic. And when I worked at the grocery store, we were closed on Sunday, but Saturdays, if the customers came in at 10 minutes after 5, I had to stay until they bought all their groceries, and then we could lock up. But boy, my dad was very strict on the hours. Yeah, but it did me good. I liked my job. And then when I went to the college, I was hired as in the food service, and Bill Mackey, in fact, hired me, and I worked there for 32 years. I had the best job in town. Those kids would come in and they'd be hungry, and we could feed them, and then we had housing, so we went to meal plans. And to this day, I see many kids, and they'll say hi, and I'll say hi back because I knew not their name, but I remember seeing them at the college. But that's a great job, also.
And I was going to say, Betty, now you had a small graduating class, right?
Yeah, we had the smallest for many years.
Do you remember the size of that class?
Well, our class, there was 51.
And then just a few years later, then Virgie, how big was your class?
64.
64. And
And we
then
doubled.
doubled by the time Teresa graduated.
That was when the war ended.
That's when I got married. The boys came home.
Yeah, Virgie, why don't you start this one? What was your best memory at school?
Well, my best memory was, it's hard. I had so many. I was very active in my class. I did a lot of things. Anyway, the best memory that I had was when I was a junior. I got picked to go to Girls State. And I had never left Ely, that far. We went to Minneapolis. And took the bus up. We stopped in Sedan and picked up the girl from Tower. So she and I went together. It was great. That was the best experience. You actually run a government, run a state, actually the state. You elected officers and you learned how, it's supposed to be done. And so that was very interesting. That was a really great experience. I just loved it. And of course, I'd never been anywhere. Anywhere. Probably to Duluth was the furthest you ever went. Because every weekend we would go to our cabin up in Jasper Lake. That was where we would go. Because my dad and mom had one day off, Sunday. That's the only day. So after 10 o'clock at night on Saturday nights, we'd jump in the car, drive up to Fernburg, and stay till Sunday after, 5 o'clock and drive back. So we never went anywhere because my folks never hired anybody. They just both worked at the store. My dad also sold insurance out of there eventually, and also he filled out at least 200 to 300 income taxes every year for people. People would, after he retired, they were bringing their taxes to his house. He was in his 80s. He was still doing income tax. So, that's how I got the business in mind, and kept it going. When we bought the Dairy Queen, my husband and I.
And I worked for her for
and she
10
worked
years.
for me, and now Betty was one of my employees. And after I got married, I had 3 boys, 1, 2, 3, close, and
Yeah.
And so then after Joey was born, we had a chance to buy the DQ, and we did do it before we even knew he has cystic fibrosis. Because that's what he ended up having, and we lost him to that. But, we still did everything, took care of him, did what we had to do to keep him going, and run the store. So, to my husband, he worked at Reserve. When he'd come home, on whatever shift he'd be on, he'd go into he took care of all the maintenance. He'd work at 3 to 11, he'd come in at 11, stay there and do his job. So, we worked it together, and the boys all, 4th grade, they were in there dipping dillies already. So, and it went forward because eventually Polly took the store and got the store. And of course, we lost him now too, so, now his wife is helping us run it, my daughter-in-law. She's like a daughter to me. I never had any daughters. So, yeah, it was, but the whole experience was great. I've had a good life, and now I'm retired. I finally retired. I used to go and help count the money even last year, but I said, I'm done. I'm 86 years old. I guess it's time to retire. So I am done now. So.
Okay. Let's go back to memories, Betty. Any memories from high school that come back to you?
Well, the ones that come back to me, I don't think I should talk about.
Oh, no.
I've always had a lot of fun.
Theresa, any particular fun things you did in high school? How about homecomings or proms? Or
Oh yes, I did everything. I mean, there was proms. I went to a prom when I was a sophomore, junior, and senior, and then I was in pep club, and we did lots of events at the halftime of the basketball tournament, basketball games.
do you remember who you went to prom with?
I went with Joe when I was a senior. I went with John Sivitz when I was a junior, and I went with Anderson. Oh, forgot his first name. Anderson as a sophomore.
Did you decorate the gym and everything?
Yes, for homecoming we did. Oh yes, I was always involved in all those decorations. Or if we used to have teas for our mother from home ec classes, and so we did that. And school to me was just fantastic. I enjoyed my school years. I enjoyed the kids, the people. I still in touch with quite a few of my classmates that are still around, and I plan all the reunions that we've had. And you just made the best of it because that's all you had. Yeah. Otherwise you had to work more.
Virgie, did they have bonfires when you were going to school?
Yeah.
Tell about the bonfires.
Oh, they used to be at the Little League
Little
field,
League.
remember?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
yeah.
somebody used to always light them ahead of time. But then when come homecoming, we'd have the snake dance.
Yeah,
Snake
yeah.
dance.
Oh, yeah,
my
that was-
goodness.
those are
And I was the leader.
We were crazy.
Tell what people don't know what a snake dance is too.
We started, started at the school.
Yeah.
And we went all the way uptown.
We hold each other's
Hold hands. And there probably was
Then-
100.
Did you sing or chant the school song?
Well, we stopped at every corner.
Uh-huh.
And then sometimes we went through Dee's bar.
We did.
We went through it.
Well, we went through it. We didn't stop.
Oh, he did stop.
They just opened their doors and let us go through.
Yeah.
The front came out in the alley and
Then we went to the fire.
Autos were in the pile and the logs and tires. You were never supposed to put them, but you'd go at nighttime and sneak a few in so it would burn longer. Oh my goodness. It was but everybody in school was involved, but so was the community.
Yeah.
The stores all had things to do because it was homecoming weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we couldn't do that again, but it sure was fun.
It was.
How did school prepare you? Did you think you have a good education? Do you feel?
oh gosh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I didn't know what I was going to do when I took that little test in 9th grade, and then they told you what you should be. Well, they said I should be a social worker, and I thought, or to take care of sick people, and I thought, me? Never. I don't want to do that. Associate wasn't right, but then I thought, I know what question I answered wrong. It was something about helping somebody that needed some help, and I thought, yeah, I could help somebody. So I put yes. I suppose that's what threw it over into that category.
Yeah.
So, but I took all the business courses I could take in high school. I took 2 years of typing and all every class you could take 2 years. Accounting. I mean, we had a good selection of classes, business classes, and I took all of them: shorthand, bookkeeping, typing.
That's what I did too, Virgie.
Yeah. And so that's what gave me my base. And then finally, by my senior year, I'm thinking, I know what I want to be. I'm going to teach this. I love to, I'm going to teach this to other kids, and that's what I did. That's when I made up my mind to do that.
Teresa, what did you think? Did your education prepare you for the rest of your life?
Yes, I took shorthand. I took bookkeeping, typing, any of those classes to help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it helped me because when I worked in the store, I could do the bookwork, and then when I went to the college, I had bookwork. And as far as cooking, my mother was a fantastic cook, and so was her mother. And so every time there was an event, I would be in the kitchen helping, and I learned so much. Because my mom would cook for the church, when they had all those fundraisers, and cooking just comes very easy for me, and I like it. But you can do. you have somebody to teach you, like my mom or my dad, you learn so much, I think, because you concentrated, because my dad only went through 8th grade in school, and he had to take over the store because Mrs. Zupancich had died, and Mr. was old, and he just listening and thinking about it nowadays, for a guy who went through 8th grade, and all he did, and he was on the hospital board, and he was on the church board, and he ran the business. But they had lots of gumption. They worked hard, and they took chances. And I think kind of that's how you have to do your life. You got to take a chance when you buy a house, you buy a car, you got to pay it off. So, and I had 6 children, and they were very active in sports too. So, it was great. Yeah.
What advice would you give kids at school today? What would you tell them with all your experience? What should they do?
They should study hard, make good friends, and take chances on college or buying a business or something. You have to have a little bit gumption so you could work really hard for that. I think that's what we taught our children too, because they all were very successful. My son John is an engineer, and and Theresa's works, and Annie works, and so I think you just have to just enjoy school and enjoy the teachers, because best years of your life until you're 19.
Virgie, any?
Well, yeah, I mean, kids are different nowadays. Ely still always has, in every single class, they've got, amazing kids that that do things well. It's just, it seems like, of course, we had those other kind of kids in our class too that didn't do their homework or didn't do anything, they didn't care, and all this and that. Kids have to learn if you get a job, put your whole heart and soul into it. But we've had so many students or graduates from Ely that have gone on to high places. That would be interesting to track all that down and write it up, because I'm telling you, we've had people do everything from working in the space program to running big corporations to owning businesses that are, and so it's just, for a small town, I think we do a good job. And I attribute that to our faculty, our teachers, and of course the parents of these. And I think a lot of times in this generation, I feel sorry for these kids, because the mom and dads, they both have to work to keep going, and these kids are on their own a lot, and so they but they have to realize that, well, they'll find out that's what's going to happen when they go out in the world, and just hope they follow the right path. But we don't have a lot of kids like that, but we have a lot of good kids.
Yeah.
A lot of good students have come out of Ely.
Smart.
I'll tell you that. Yeah.
Because a lot of them have left Ely for the education, more education.
A lot of college.
College, yeah.
Yeah.
And my granddaughters are runners. Janie's daughters. All 3 of them. They're all runners. And in this summer, last summer, they had that run in the park. And my granddaughter, Crystal, she won first place.
Yeah. Oh, like your mom.
Yeah.